Good morning, everyone. This is Erica Oriens from the Michigan Center for Student Success at the Michigan Community College Association. Thanks for joining us today on this webinar that focuses on a priority that we identified during our transfer pathways work with the universities to try to increase the equivalencies between community colleges in Michigan. So I hope today we'll be able to get through these slides and then leave plenty of time for questions. We can do questions at the end, or my colleague Katie Girardello is monitoring the questions and she can jump in if there are pertinent questions that you're asking in the chat. So when you're looking at your screen, you should see an area like a tray where you can manage your audio and your video and view the participants. And then you should also see a chat feature in there as well. And you can just enter those questions into the chat. If we need to unmute folks, we can go ahead and do that as well to have a longer conversation with questions at the end. We are recording this today, and we also will make the slides available on the MCCA website. If you haven't seen the new MCCA website, we have a new events page, and it's a terrific resource. I think we'll be saving all materials from events on that page. So we'll go ahead and get started. So I want to give you a little bit of background of how we got here today. So many of you know or are involved in our work where we have been working with partner universities to develop direct equivalencies in our MyTransfer Pathways courses. In that work, we identified that actually, as we're working to try to build direct equivalencies with universities, we discovered that there's some gaps in courses transferring between community colleges. And just to clarify, we recognize that the Michigan Transfer Network is not the ultimate source of information that's transferring. And just because an equivalency isn't documented in the MTN doesn't mean that your institution wouldn't accept that course. However, we also know that we are emphasizing that the MTN is a place where students can go to see how their courses transfer. And if there is no equivalency in there, they're left with, sort of an unknown of how a course is going to transfer. So we wanted to leverage the opportunity to leverage some new resources that we can use to document transferability of courses between community colleges. So that's a little bit of the background about how we got here. What I want to do is really just kind of go through some resources with you that will be helpful steps for you to establish those equivalencies between community colleges. There are 5 steps that we've identified in this process, which is to identify missing equivalencies, review course syllabi and information about the course, establish equivalency and the process for doing that, posting your updated equivalencies to the new MTN, and then ways that you can check on your progress as well. So first of all, I just wanted to share with you, these are the 28 Michigan community colleges. I sometimes forget, as a person who works at the state level, I work with all of these community colleges, and in fact, I think I can name all of them by memory alphabetically, just because we do so much work with all of our colleges and need to keep that list. But sometimes I forget that folks like you who work out at our community colleges may not have that whole list of colleges. We'll see on the MTN that there is a place where all of the community colleges are listed, but I thought it might just be helpful to have that list of colleges here as well. So let's talk about the first step in the process, which is how you can identify missing equivalencies. And there are really 2 ways to do this. You can look up equivalencies on the public site of the Michigan Transfer Network on the page that we call Transfer Your Courses, or you can use our course equivalency matrix that we've created. And I'll go through step by step how you do each of those. So first option, let's talk about how you can look up your equivalencies on Transfer Your Courses. And we would go to the Transfer Your Courses page. And then, of course, you would search for courses by receiving institution because you want to see how your institution is reporting that you accept courses from other community colleges. So you go here and click Start Search. And then very simply, you'll be able to search by receiving institution. I'm using Grand Rapids Community College in this example and in an example throughout this whole process. So I am in charge of this work at Grand Rapids Community College, and I want to see how we are transferring EC 252, which is an economics course. I'm going to leave this sending institution blank because I want to know how we accept this course, but I want to see it from every institution. And then I would click search, and I can view my results from Grand Rapids Community College. So we can see here that GRCC, the course here is EC 252, because that's the course that I queried, versus Principle of Microeconomics. And we see here how GRCC accepts that course from all of these sending institutions. The results are presented in alphabetical order. It is not possible to filter this by community college, so you will need to look at these equivalencies for the public and independent institutions as well. So make sure that you are looking through, recognize that the results are going to be more than just community colleges. When we look at this page, we can see that we are viewing 15 records on this page, and we are viewing 1 through 15 of 36 records. You can actually shift this to show 15, maybe 30, 50, or 100 results per page. So that you can see all of them if you would like to. In the results section up here, the color coding is really designed to distinguish between each row, although we do the dark gray and the light gray to distinguish that. But these are the colors of each of those institutions as well, that they told us what their college's colors are, so we can kind of help distinguish that. And then finally on this results page, you're able to download results to PDF. So if you clicked on this and you wanted to print out this information or save it for what you're looking at today, you can download those results to PDF. So that's the first way that we can really see, where am I missing equivalencies? So if I'm just looking at here alphabetically and going back to our list of community colleges, we know that the first 3 colleges are Alpena Community College, Bay College, and Delta College. And if I look on here, I can see that GRCC has not established an equivalency with Alpena Community College, and they have not established an equivalency with Bay College, but they have established an equivalency with Delta College. So this gives you that kind of checklist that you might be looking for to determine where you have missing equivalencies. The option B is to leverage something that we've created called the course equivalency matrix. And this option is only available to people at the college who have the credentials to log into the site. So what I showed you in option A is available on the public site. In option B, you need to have the credentials to log in to look at what I'm going to show you as option B. What you would do is go to Reports. On your, once you log in, you get to your dashboard, you can go to Reports. Then you will click on View Matrices under the Course Equivalency Matrices. And once you get to this page, you will find a list of, some of you will probably have 100 or more matrices that you're able to view on here, because we're using these matrices in our transfer pathways work that we're partnering on the universities with. However, we have created matrices to look at how courses transfer between community colleges in Michigan. So what we've done is this is a list of matrix, but we have a very nice search feature here that you can use to start to search for information. And in this search feature, we have titled the matrices that are about the community college to community college equivalencies. We call them CC:CC. So if you search for that matrix name, what you'll come up with is a list of 19 matrices that are the 19 courses we're doing in the phase 1 pathway. So we've created these for those 19 courses in the first phase of those pathways. So this is what you'll see on that site. Okay, if we click into one of those matrices, and I'm going to continue to use the example of microeconomics, we'll see we have the CC phase 1 business microeconomics. We're looking at this matrix by receiving institution. So when we enter these courses in here, these are the courses at each of the community colleges in Michigan. And then what we'll do is we'll go to view matrix. And these are the results that you get. And what we're seeing here across the top row are the 28 community colleges in Michigan. In the second row, we see the microeconomics course at that community college. On the left-hand column, we see the 28 community colleges in Michigan. And then in the main area of the results section here, what we're seeing is information about how those courses transfer between those institutions. So again, I want to use Grand Rapids Community College example, and I've just taken a smaller screenshot here so that it's hopefully a little bit easier to see on your screen. At Grand Rapids Community College, as we saw before, their course is EC 252. And so when we created the matrix, we said to the system, tell us how courses transfer to Grand Rapids Community College as EC 252. And what we see here in this column is that if the box is green, it means the course transfers as a direct equivalency. And what we mean by that is the student who took ECN 232 at Jackson College can see that they're getting EC 252 credit at Grand Rapids Community College. Sometimes people ask why that is important, because as some of you know, courses can be posted to the MTN as what institutions typically call general, elective, or departmental credit. And it may say something like that the ECN 232 at Jackson College transfers to GRCC as EC or Gen 000.0. So the course is transferring and the student is getting credit, but there's no way for a student to know how that credit will apply to a degree program. So it's a little bit of a mystery to the student how you would apply that credit, because there are no course requirements that are EC Gen 000. So that is why we prioritize in this work what we call the direct equivalency. So what we can see here is that Grand Rapids Community College has not articulated an economics course from Glen Oaks or Gogebic. This box is dark gray because they can't we have no expectation that you have transferability between your own institution. They have not articulated that credit from Ford College, and then they have articulated that credit as these courses from Jackson, KVCC, Kellogg, Kirtland, Lake Michigan, Lansing, and Macomb. So we're able to look at a view of this a little bit more quickly than what you could do when you were looking at the public site. The other advantage of this is that you're able to look at this a little bit more quickly across all of the institutions in Michigan. So we can see where you can see how you compare to your other peer community colleges as well. So those are the two ways that you can use the course equivalency matrices to build out these equivalencies. Before I move on from that, I also want to go back and show you that you can also create your own matrix. So we have created matrices by course, but if you created your own and you were GRCC, you could actually create your own matrix that includes all 19 of these courses in one matrix. So we haven't created that for all of the 28 community colleges, but if I'm thinking about the GRCC folks that are on the call, if you wanted to do that, you could create your own matrix, and what you would see is down here, every institution would be Grand Rapids Community College, and then you would have all 19 of those courses in here, and you would be able to see that on one matrix and monitor that for your own institution. Okay, the next step in, if for example, you have identified, as we have here with GRCC, that they would like to establish an equivalency with Glen Oaks, Grow-Gibeck, and Henry Ford, the next thing that we would typically do is review a syllabus, or, and we'll get later in the next step a little bit to how you determine if a course articulates, but certainly we think that most people would want to review a syllabus. And once again, there are two ways that we offer that you would be able to get your hands on a syllabus for some of these courses. And the first way is to contact community colleges, and the second way is to view Canvas. So first, let's talk about contacting community colleges. So we, on the New Michigan Transfer Network, we have a terrific resource that I think some people think is one of the really best new features of the MTN, is if you click this button up here that says Find Colleges and Universities, you'll be able to find a list of all the community colleges. And you can see here, I have selected Jackson College. And if you scroll down to the bottom of the page, and I know this is in very tiny letters, and that is somewhat deliberate because this information is not, is available to students, but it's not what we want them to focus on. But you can see down here, we have the MyTransfer secure users, and those are Jennifer Dorr, Ashley Van Heest, and Stephanie Waffle Stevenson. Those three people have access to updating information on the MTN, and for the most part, that would be a good place to start to request the syllabus for the courses that you want to articulate. So I am not suggesting that these are going to be exactly the right people, but it is publicly available information, and it would be a good place for you to start. You'll notice that we do not include their email addresses on here. It's a security issue that we don't want to be in the business of publishing your email addresses, but it's fairly easy to Google the name Ashley Van Heest and find her email address at Jackson College on their website as well. So that would be the first place, is that you can just contact another community college. One thing that might be nice if you're taking on this project is to get a little bit organized with what syllabi you need from each institution, and make that request one time so that the folks in that office can collect that information from a variety of different sources, as opposed to kind of a onesie-twosie emails going back and forth. The second option is to view a website that we created on Canvas. Canvas has a free publicly available way to create Canvas courses, if you will. And we did that for the MyTransfer Pathways project. And on the previous slide, I shared with you how you can self-enroll in the Canvas course. And there are a couple of different ways to do that if you do not have a Canvas account, or if your email address already does. I've shared that information, and many institutions have uploaded their syllabi to the Canvas forum. And so it's possible that you would be able to, instead of going back and forth on email, it's possible that you would be able to find some institutions' syllabi posted out there on Canvas. On the Michigan Transfer Network, we are hoping to build some enhancements into the site moving forward before our project ends in September of 2020. And one of those enhancements is to provide an opportunity for a document or syllabus exchange on the MTN, and this would be behind the scenes. but essentially taking this functionality that we have built in Canvas and putting it on the MTN. We know when it comes to transferability that the syllabus is a key document that your institutions need. So we are in the process of working with the developers to build out functionality on the MTN so that we would have the ability for you to upload your syllabi to the MTN, and then also for you to search other folks' syllabi on there as well. So keep that in mind, that could be an enhancement that we have moving forward. Okay, clearly then, now we have identified in step 1 where you have missing equivalencies. We have, you've collected the syllabi from your sister community colleges, and now you have decided that it's time to establish that you have an equivalency. So how do we do that? And we've talked with quite a few people across the state recently, or over the last couple of years, about how they do this, and the policies at institutions about how they establish equivalencies vary pretty dramatically across institutions. And what I've done here is really focused on what policies you need to be thinking about when you're talking about how you establish equivalencies. This list of policies or issues that you may want to consider is available through a very good publication that the ACRO organization released a couple of years ago, the American Association of Collegiate Registrars and Admissions Officers. I've provided a link to this report at the end of the slide deck, but I just wanted to call your attention to thinking about your institutional policies when it comes to equivalencies. And I also know that many of you would be interested in more support from the Center for Student Success in sharing information about those policies. So that's something that we hope we'll be able to do in the future as well. So, and of course, it's as with any policies, you want to think about how you're documenting these. As ACRO has pointed out, you want to think about your policies related to transcripts, specifically around documenting equivalencies, when your transcripts come in as official or unofficial transcripts, how the process that you use to review learning outcomes, and then very closely related to that is how faculty are engaged in that process, how you communicate with faculty and what their role is in reviewing those course syllabi and establishing those equivalencies. This isn't a huge issue in Michigan, but your credit conversion policy, so back when we used to have a lot more institutions that were on quarters and semesters, this was a big issue. In Michigan, less so. However, we still have a significant amount of difference in the same course or equivalent course that may be awarded different credit at different institutions. Clearly, you need to have a policy on what grade the student needs to receive in the course in order to earn credit. You also might want to think about equivalency policies in terms of the credit life and expiration. So how long ago the student took the course may be an issue for your institution, and that may depend on the course as well. Focusing also on credit levels, and this speaks specifically to the issue that we see pop up all the time, particularly between community colleges and universities about awarding credit at the 200 and 300 level. It should be less of an issue at community colleges, although we do have increasingly more institutions who have the authority to offer bachelor's degrees. So I don't count this out as a policy that some of you may need to consider. Just for your information, as we've worked with the universities with this issue, we have very much focused on the learning outcomes when it comes to the credit levels. If the learning outcomes match, the credit level shouldn't matter. And the other issue that we've observed is if the university allows their own students to take 300 or 3,000 level courses, it seems reasonable that they would accept those courses for transfer as well. You also want to document institutional policies about applicability. Residency requirements at your institution are important in this whole equivalency process as well, in terms of how many credits the student needs to earn at your institution to earn a degree, and then conversely, how many credits the student can transfer in. And then finally, it's important that you think about having an appeals process as well. So if you do not award credit for a student, what is your documented policy for students to be able to appeal that process? So this is just kind of a list of what you might want to think about in terms of your equivalency policies. The other thing that has come up in our conversations about this work is if an institution does not offer the course that the student is transferring. So let's say, for example, you are a community college that does not offer microeconomics, yet you know that students are taking that course at the 27 other community colleges in Michigan. How do you articulate that credit? What do you apply it to at the institution? I think that we don't want to, most institutions don't want to, quote, not accept the credit, but I think it's a policy issue to determine how you transfer that course, and then also how you apply that credit to the student's degree program, even though that's not a cataloged course at your institution. So think about those equivalency policies as you're establishing those equivalencies. The next step would be to post those equivalencies to the MyTransfer website. And I just want to go through a little bit how you do this. This may involve you, or it may involve other people at your institution. Again, to post equivalencies to the MTN, you need to be able to log in to the MTN. So there's a place where you can log in. And then instead of, when you get to your dashboard, instead of going to reports, you would go to course data, click on course data, and then we have about a 10 to 12 step process to upload your equivalencies. You can open a file through your file browser, or you can drag and drop that file here. I'm not going to go through every step about how we upload course equivalency data, but I just wanted to point out that for those green boxes to change, you actually need to upload that equivalency data to the MTN. A few upload tips that you might want to be aware of, and certainly the person at your institution that does that would need to be aware of. First, only the receiving institution uploads equivalency data. There has been some confusion about this across the state, so I just want to clarify that if GRCC is accepting a course from Jackson College and we want that box to appear green, or there to be an equivalency on the MTN, the only institution that has any control over that is the receiving institution. And in the example that we've been using, that is GRCC. So Jackson College can't control when and how GRCC uploads those equivalencies. So there's been some confusion because obviously the course appears at the sending and receiving institution, but I just want to clarify that there's only one institution that uploads that. Second, as of right now, institutions must upload all equivalencies every time. There are no partial uploads in the Michigan Transfer Network that we have now. There's a couple of reasons for that. Number one is we have another fantastic reporting feature that I'm not featuring in this webinar, but you can sign up to get an email sent to you when an equivalency changes or a set of equivalencies change. And to create that report, it's difficult for us to use partial uploads and create that report. So we need institutions to upload all equivalencies every time. The other thing that happened in the old MTN, when you could upload a partial file. So imagine that you have your equivalencies in the MTN, and you're an institution that says, oh, I have 10 more equivalencies that I want to add. And so you add those 10 equivalencies. What happens is we end up having duplicate information in the MTN. And I mean a lot of duplicate information in the MTN. And what I mean by that is the exact same equivalency in the case of GRCC, EC 252 from Jackson College could have potentially appeared in there multiple times. To the user, it looks like the same thing is in there multiple times. Not only does that make the experience, the search experience for students a little bit more complicated, it reduces confidence in the data that we have in the MTN. And so we are doing uploads, all equivalencies every time. Again, a feature that we may be adding moving forward is for institutions to just upload one equivalency, like one at a time. And we hope and expect that that will not become the default, that institutions are going in there and just adding one equivalency. But we've heard some feedback from people that it would be helpful to have that option out there, even though we are hoping that the default is that they upload all equivalencies. The third thing that I want to point out is that the system can handle many configurations of equivalencies. So we've been talking about one-to-one equivalencies, but the system can also handle one-to-many. So Econ is one course at GRCC, but it is 2 courses at another institution. We can handle that. We can handle many-to-one, which would be the opposite of that. So at GRCC, it's 2 courses, and in another institution, it's 1 course. And then finally, we can handle many-to-many. So meaning that if it's, for example, a lecture in a lab, we have 2 courses at GRCC and 2 courses at the sending institution. The system can handle that as well. The next thing I want to point out is that you can use comments, and I think that this can be very helpful in the scenario that I described, where as a receiving institution, you do not offer that course. Comments are a great place to say that, maybe articulate that as your general credit, but that you are communicating to the student how that course would be applied in their degree program. The next thing I want to point out is that you can use begin and end dates, which is a new feature that we've added to the Michigan Transfer Network. And what that means, I'm sure you do this in your own system, is that you establish when the equivalency began. So if the student took a course before a certain period of time, it wouldn't necessarily transfer, but if they took it between a certain time period, it would. You can, begin and end dates are optional, and you can also enter a begin date, but not an end date. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about establishing those equivalencies. And once again, as I've said, you can still include information in the MTN if there is no equivalency. And I think you know this because the universities do this a lot, where they will say, especially for courses where they don't offer the course in their catalog, they may include in the MTN, they'll say no credit awarded. But just so you know, you have that option in there. And in many ways, that is helpful information for students and for your sister institution to know that you have evaluated it and you will not be awarding credit for the transferability of that course. So keep that in mind when you're doing those uploads. Okay. The last step is to check your work. And this is a long process, and there's typically a lot of people involved in this process at our institutions. And so we're just going to loop back to how you can check your work to see if those equivalencies were uploaded. Again, you can view updated equivalencies by searching your courses by receiving institution. You did that at the beginning of the process. If you want to do that on the public website, I would encourage you to do that at the end of the process as well. You can review the updated matrix. And so in the case of GRCC here, they would be able to, if they went through the whole process and uploaded additional equivalencies, what they should see in here is more green boxes. The other thing that you can do is view equivalencies by receiving institution. I just want to point out, when we went to the reports before, we went right to those view matrices, which are the matrices that you see here. But the other thing that you can do is if you go out here to by receiving institution and you view that report, you'll notice on the MTN, on the public site, that there is no way for a student to view all of the equivalencies at Grand Rapids Community College. So you have to either select a sending institution, or you need to select a subject or a subject in a course. The reason for that is because it's too taxing on the system to pull down every single equivalency that GRCC has ever uploaded. From a student perspective, it just takes too long. We tested it out, it takes too long, and we think that students would just ditch the process in the middle anyway because it takes too long. However, we know that you need that information, or that is helpful to you. And so if you go out here to view a report by receiving institution, which I've done here, I've pulled a report for Grand Rapids Community College, and actually I could have just downloaded every equivalency from GRCC, but what I did is narrowed that down to EC 252. And interestingly, I didn't have time to check this out before the webinar, but I think there were 36 results on the previous slide, and there are 37 results here. So I need to check that out, but notice that I have the way that you search on here is slightly different than the way that you search on the public site. But this is a way that you can look at all of those equivalencies behind the scenes. You can export this to a comma delimited file, which is basically an Excel file. You can generate a PDF, and you can also schedule this report. And when you schedule a report, that report can go to you, or it can go to you and other people at your institution. So if you have some folks in your office who are focusing on specific aspects of this project, you could actually schedule a report where they would get this on a regular basis, if that's what you wanted to do. The last thing that I wanted to point out is we've focused a lot through this process in how you, GRCC, are accepting courses from other community colleges, but clearly you may want to know, are other community colleges accepting my courses? How would I be able to find out information about that? Again, we can use the same two of the same three processes, but let me point those out again. One, transfer your courses, but this time you're going to search by sending institution. So if I'm Jackson College, I can say, how are the other community colleges accepting my econ course? And I would search for that by sending institution. Second, I can use the same matrix, but instead of looking up and down at the matrix results like I did here, if I'm Grand Rapids Community College and I want to know how other people are accepting my econ course, all I need to do is look left to right. So it's just a different view on the matrix, and I can see here where GRCC has some gaps and where they might expect to hear from other community colleges about building those equivalencies. The last thing you can do is view equivalencies by transferring and sending institution. So I showed you before what this looks like by receiving institution. If you're the sending or transferring institution, we are still, some of the materials from the old site still talk about transferring institution. You can actually view a report and see how your courses transfer to other institutions. This is extremely valuable because theoretically, you should know already how you receive courses. This report is extremely valuable because you can download the equivalencies that every other institution on the MTEN has uploaded about your institution. You can download that as a CSV file. And with a CSV file, you could even you can obviously include that in Excel and do some filtering in Excel, but you can also upload that into a BI tool or some other more sophisticated tool that you have available on your campus to do some analysis of how your courses transfer to other institutions. I'm going to be presenting at the Michigan Association for Institutional Research conference next month. And I work a lot with our institutional researchers. And I'm going to be focusing on some of those more complicated processes for using the data in the MTN. I will say in the past, and we still do focus a lot on student outcomes, but one of the things that I think is extremely powerful about the data that we have available here is this information is at the course level. And so every single one of these equivalencies has the potential effect of affecting dozens or hundreds of students. So don't, think about how this information affects all of those students at your institution as well. I wanted to share our contact information here as well. You have my email address on here. And I also wanted you to remember that we have fabulous people on our team who, Katie Girardello and Donna Petrus, who are working on the MyTransfer Pathways project with the public universities and independent colleges. They have a wealth of information, or they can be a great resource for you to find information that may be helpful to you. So while I can be a helpful resource, I just want you to know that Katie and Donna are also here as people who know a lot about how to do this equivalency work and have been supporting our public universities in this work as well. I do want to take questions and discussion, but I also wanted to just let you know that I used a few resources out there, and I have those linked here at the end of the slideshow. But with that, I will go ahead and pause to see if you have any questions. Katie, are there any questions in the chat?
Not as of yet.
I'm assuming people are typing away. And so we'll wait for that.
You did such a fabulous job. I'm thinking you should take over for me in YouTube training videos.
No, thank you. But I do think that we probably will do some kind of more brief training on this that you can share with folks.
So you're seeing the question coming in. It looks like it's about accreditation, but Joe, we need the rest of your sentence.
Great job, thanks. Has anyone collaborated with the various, I'm assuming this is accreditors? That's a really good question. And yes, Joe, we have talked about that over the last couple of years. The work that we are, like you said, HLC, doing accrediting bodies like HLC. We've done a significant amount of research on the intersection between transferability and accreditation. And we've also talked with a couple of other states that have done some of this statewide work around transfer and how they have dealt with accreditation. It doesn't seem like the accreditors, and as you know, accreditation is at the institution level, and so they don't have a whole lot of engagement at the state level, or their accreditation policies don't necessarily affect state level work. All of the work that we are doing, that our expectation is that every institution that is participating in this is complying with their accreditation standards that they need to meet as it applies to how they articulate credit to their institutions and how they, the policies that they have in place about that articulation. So our expectation is that that is happening at the institution level. I think that as we've spoken with folks from across the state who who work on accreditation on their campus or may work for HLC as a visitor, we've talked with folks in Michigan about that as well. And Michigan is sort of lucky, I guess, in some ways, in the sense that we're so highly decentralized that there's actually nothing we could require you to do anyway that may put your accreditation in jeopardy. So just know that we're aware of those, that this has some intersection with accreditation, but that typically happens at the institution level. Good question.
I am getting a couple of questions in the private chat that I thought might be helpful for others to hear. One question is there a limit to how many super users or secure access users at the campus? The answer is no. You at the campus can designate as many super users or secure access users as you wish. We have also heard some concerns about this, that there might be folks on your campus who should have the data, but maybe shouldn't have the back-end access. So we encourage you to talk with your constituents on campus about what is most appropriate. I know at least a few campuses have said that they like letting people know what's available, and they have used some of our videos to show people what they can access or what is, on the back end, but that they would prefer for those requests to come to one single person as a super user rather than granting access to all of those folks. So I would encourage you to have that conversation on your campus and develop your own protocol for that. And then another great question was asked to me in the private chat. And the person wanted to know if they could use the matrices for courses outside of MyTransfer. And the answer is yes and no. We are only developing the matrices for the MyTransfer Pathways courses as far as the project staff goes, but you on the campus level can use the matrix templates to create matrices for any courses that you wish. And I know, because I have super user access, that there are some campuses who have started to do this and are basically replicating the matrices, because you can duplicate any of the matrices that you can see in your secure user queue, and then you can edit it to include whatever course data you wish. So if it's not in one of the 12 MyTransfer areas, then you can do that way as well. And Erica, I'll let you talk about what you're showing them now.
Sure. So I just wanted to, going back to our matrix that we created for microeconomics, it is true that to view this matrix online, you must have secure access. However, you'll notice here that you can download the matrix, and you can do that and then pop it very quickly into Excel. Excel retains all of the color and everything that it comes over with it. And so if you wanted to download those and then share them with somebody on your campus, that's an option as well. At this time, I don't expect that we will make these matrices public because they are, they're really for internal use, and we don't expect that we would make those public. However, if you're a community college and you're working with students on where they should transfer their courses, one of the things that we have discovered in this process is people really like, and I'm going to view the matrix again, people really like that you can, the way that we visualize this for a student. And I've actually created a couple of matrices that we're demonstrating for when we go to trends this year to present. I did an example at Montcalm Community College where I put in a lot of their CIS, their Computer Networks and Systems program courses. And when I go out and view that matrix, another thing that I will point out is that you can see here, I've added Montcalm's courses for CMIS, CNET. These are the courses, and then a couple of English and math courses in their Computer Networks program. You can see how those courses transfer to community colleges, but if you scroll down, we also have information about how they transfer to public universities, and then also how they transfer to independent colleges and universities. So keep that in mind as well, that that information is available for you.
Erica, there's a suggestion to discuss what the red boxes mean in the matrices.
Great question. The red boxes that you will often see at the, or not, you won't often, but I'll pull my, actually, let me just go back to the slideshow. Someone pointed out that you see a red box up here, and it looks like we're looking at Gogebic Community College. What that red box means is that the system could not find that course in the MTN at all. So there is no course for Gogebic in there. There is no course in there. I'll also point out there's a little blue box here that's hard to see, but that is a legend, and that explains everything that you're seeing on the matrix as well, the coloring and all that kind of stuff. But basically what that red means is there's no course loaded into the system for Gogebic.
Thank you. You'll also see some red on the, if you're looking at the My Transfer matrices that indicate we didn't receive course data. So that's not as germane to what Erica is showing you here with the community college versions, but just in case you run into that, it's because nobody told me what courses they were or told us what courses they were. So they show up red as well because they're clearly, if it says no data, that's not a course code in the MTN. Another great question is how many schools are uploading to the MTN? I'm seeing 86 listed in the institutional page, but Erica's giving me eyes, so maybe that's not correct.
That seems high to me. I will tell you that the way that you know that is this list down here of community colleges, public universities, and independent colleges and universities. These are the institutions that are uploading data to the MTN. You cannot appear on this page unless you upload data to the MTN.
Okay.
Another thing that I will point.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I'm just in the institutions queue in the dashboard, and I think that there are some duplicates, like some people's colleges of law or social work or whatever are listed.
Oh, that's a great. Yep, that's a great question. The reason that there are more institutions is because the policy is only these institutions can upload data to the MTN because they are public community colleges, public universities, and independent colleges and universities. However, and this gets a little confusing, but these institutions can upload data about these institutions or other Michigan-based institutions, typically for-profit colleges and tribal colleges. So even though only community colleges, public universities, and independent colleges and universities can participate in the MTN, these institutions can upload data about how they receive equipped courses from for-profit colleges and from tribal colleges. And just to be sure, the tribal colleges can participate and they would be listed as a community college on here as well. The next thing that I want to point out is for Grand Rapids Community College, once again, an institution is listed there, but they may not have uploaded very recently. And again, down here where we saw who the MTN secure users were, you can also look at the last time that the course equivalencies were updated and who updated those course equivalencies. This is extremely helpful information if you're concerned about when the last time some of this information was updated. Great question.
Thank you. I also want to clarify one more thing, going back to a previous question about your ability to create reports for yourselves. You can do that and customize it. I mentioned that I'm able to view when you do that. No one else is. So I just want you to feel free to play around and edit as you see fit. Just a few of us have this kind of super user access, but those of you who log into your own queue, you will see anything that we as the project staff have created, but you will not see what your colleagues or peers at other institutions or even at your own institution have created. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Another enhancement that we're looking at creating is if you are a person that is using those reports and you wanted to share that report with another person. So if I worked at Montcalm Community College and I wanted to share this report with my peers at Montcalm Community College, we're looking at a way to build this out so that you can share this matrix with another person. And it could be any person that has access to the system. So we're looking at building out that functionality. And that would, we would roll that out over the next several months, which is another great opportunity for me to share that if there are anything that is on the back end here, any enhancements that we can make to the website, that come up to you, this is a custom built website and we have a great relationship with the developers. And so if you have ideas for things that you want to add, please don't hesitate to reach out to me and give me those ideas. I can't guarantee that I'll be able to do every one of those, but some of those ideas that you have, it's just really helpful to get those in our queue so we know what people will use. We developed this website with input from a lot of people across the state. So I think you can tell that it really tries to meet the needs of a lot of people. But I think there are probably things that we missed in that process as well, or as you've started to dig into this, you learned more. And I think what we're seeing here in the announcements is a great example. Two examples, actually. We have on your institutional profile page, there's a place where you can link out to your Facebook and Instagram and other social media accounts, but we didn't include LinkedIn, which seems like a really good one to add. So we added LinkedIn, where a student could link out to your LinkedIn social media. And then we also added an institution's phone number to the institutional profile page. So those are two features that somebody said, you know, it just seems like that would be a good addition. And so we did it, which is great.
Thank you. And I'll just reiterate that in addition to any enhancements of functionality, if you feel like we haven't provided enough support, like training support, as Erica knows, now one of my favorite things to do is create YouTube videos about websites. So we are always interested in hearing your feedback on that as well. And I can't remember if Erica had it in her PowerPoint, but I did just put the link up for the technical resources page on the mytransfer.org website, which she's going to pull up here as well. This includes a number of different training materials, as well as some really cool marketing downloads that you all may be interested in taking a look at. I really like some of them that provide space for co-branding. So they have an actual space, like in the white space, for your own logos, so that you could print these with your logos associated as well. And that's the woman that I call Happy Transfer. I'm trying to start a new movement, either Transfer Happy or Happy Transfer. So if you're into hashtags and you have happy students, let's see if we can start a grassroots campaign. I don't see any more questions in, and I know we're coming to the end of the program. Erica, is there anything else?
No, I'll just point out again our contact information. Please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. We are recording this webinar, and like I said, we will be posting that to the MCCA website. If you go under events, and then you click into this event, the Community College to Community College Transfer webinar that we're having right now, there will be a link to the recording and a link to the slideshow that I used today. Thank you so much for joining us, and look forward to working with you all on this fun, exciting project. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.